Hi, this is Jim from Safety Wars. Before we start the program, I want to make sure everyone understands that we often talk about OSHA and EPA citations, along with some other regulatory actions from other agencies, legal cases, and criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories, at least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
And from the border of liberty and prosperity in the highway to the north, this is Safety Wars for Wednesday, July 26, 2023. Just like Jay Allen pointed out on his show, the Rated R Safety Show, it's been a couple of days since we've seen you. Vacations, family issues, schedules, baseball, you name it. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I hope well. We have a lot of stuff going on. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, we've had a crane collapse in New York City today. I turned on the radio on my commute into my project this morning, and that's what I hear. Crane collapse, New York City. We hear the usual cast of characters giving commentary on it. We're going to try to go a little bit deeper into it here, and some of my own commentary. We also have an Unexplained Aerial Phenomenon. Big hearings today. Very interesting if you caught it on the news. We'll be talking about that also briefly, and our usual news and views with the commentary on the OSHA press releases and some other stuff going on out there. Some interesting things. I had some, tomorrow we're going to go on a little bit of, or I should say the next program, we're going to be going on a little bit of a deeper dive on some issues. I was listening to one podcast / radio show last week on all this rhetoric going on out there. This side hating that side. This side hating that side. This side doing this. And this side doing... I know it goes on and on and on and on and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we all end up hating each other. So, well, we have to bring in, we want to be one of those beacons out there on YouTube, whatever platform you're listening to, the podcast networks, over 40 of them, to try to elevate this a little bit more. And we're going to attempt to do that tomorrow, and then Friday we'll try to do some other stuff. I had some interviews lined up with some Hollywood folks out there, but they can't do the interviews because of the strike. Right, it's a violation of the thing. Yes, I am wearing a new swag, Safety Wars, JCP Technical Services. We have Posel 1 on the back, and my wife has graciously asked to wear my normal Safety Wars shirt, except it's hers, and it has her name on the back. Anyway, let's go right into the commentary here. And what's going on here with that crane collapse in New York City? And I just lost the thing, the story I had right up here. Let's see if we can find it again. Don't have to go too far for it because it's been all over the news. So this morning I'm on the way in, like I said, and I find out, we have this crane collapse in New York City. And, hold on, I'll have to edit this one out. So this is what it comes down to. New York City construction crane catches on fire before it collapses. New York City authorities say 6 injured, including 2 firefighters in crane arm collapse. New York City authorities are warning the public to avoid the area of Manhattan Wednesday after a construction crane caught fire on a partially collapsed, sending 16 tons of concrete and debris, or debris, as a lot of people call it, tumbling down into the streets. The incident has left at least 6 people injured, 2 of which were firefighters responding to the scene. Thank God the injuries are minor, said New York City Mayor Eric Adams said. As you can see from the debris on the street, this could be much worse. I'm waiting for the accident report here. Hopefully OSHA will issue something here on this for their investigation. As we know, they have up to like 6 months to issue an investigation. FDNY First Deputy Commissioner Joseph Pfeiffer said 1 firefighter is having chest pains and is being transported to a hospital. Oh, well, I wonder why. It's like 99 degrees out there. I mean, it was hot. I tried to make it to this area, and they shut down the Lincoln Tunnel. It was a nightmare. So I said, I can't do it for you folks. Sorry. I love you, but I can't do it like this. So this was a tower crane. So as we know, in the late 2000s, early 2010s, there were a lot of accidents in New York City with tower cranes. And one of the biggest ones was on, I believe it was May 30th, 2009, or May 29th, 2009. The only reason why I know that is that I got a phone call from one of my clients, and they had a fatality on May 30th, 2009. And everybody, all the OSHA compliance people and investigators were at the other crane collapse. And what ended up happening was they got people who were not very familiar with their situation, and we never really got to the bottom of exactly what happened there. And we're getting the whole cast of characters here with this accident. No, as usual, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this. How about we do an investigation and not have a knee-jerk reaction? And once we have the investigation, we go and we do something. What happened last time there was a knee-jerk reaction under Mayor de Blasio a couple years ago? They came out with this convoluted and wrought with fraud. I'm sorry, wrought with fraud. We're going to have 40 hours. We're going to require 40 hours of training. Well, what happens often is 40 hours for construction workers, Department of Buildings training. And then there was no, not in there, because it easily gets, people get a lot of their training classes mixed up. They don't know OSHA 30-hour outreach, OSHA 10-hour outreach, or OSHA 40-hour HAZWOPER, or any of the other number of ANSI recommended or industry standard, I should say that, trainings out there. So someone said OSHA 40, nobody corrected them, is what my thinking would happen. They came up with this, and they had to come and design a course, which of course very few people and companies in New York could do, because try to get on the list for training things, and it's like, it's hey, Jim, why don't you do training in New York? Because it's a Herculean task to get on the approved list, right? And if you want to work for somebody, forget about it, doing that training. I mean, it's not even, out there. And then what do you get? I was just talking to a person today on a project I was on at an undisclosed location. We were talking about the 30-hour courses. And he said, oh, yeah, the first time I took the 30-hour course, I paid somebody off. The second time I took the 30-hour course, I had my kid take it for me online. Oh, really? That's really wonderful. And guess what? Wrought with fraud, all these outreach training courses. Because in New York City, let's face it, if you're a good worker, there's a labor shortage there and everything else, qualified laborers. Qualified tradespeople, and what happens? Am I going to spend 30 hours in a classroom, 4 days is what it comes down to, or am I going to lose 40 hours of pay, 30 hours of pay, 4 days worth of pay? That's what you're doing, and where's the incentive? Got to go to work. So what happens? People falsify things. all the time. And not everybody has their story here. It's very frustrating. Now, with the cranes, after some of the major crane accidents out there, they came out with several licenses in New York. So these went into effect September 7th, 2021. Hold on. Actually, before that, I'm reading the wrong date on this on my notes here or on the page. But they basically came out with all 3 different licenses. Class A, you have a Class A hoist machine operator. Class A hoist machine operator are licensed to operate cranes with booms under 200 feet in length. Then you have a Class B hoist machine operator. A Class B hoist machine operator are licensed to operate all cranes regardless of length. Class C hoist machines. So these are like your boom trucks, that sort of thing. And they have 3 different classes, C1, C2, and C3 hoisting machine. So there are basically 3 of them. So let's see here. And okay. So Class 1, C1, is for mobile cranes, large telescopic boom cranes, mobile cranes, small telescopic boom cranes, boom cranes, either with a fixed cab or a swing cab. To claim a Class C2 license, it's for a boom truck for a fixed cab, and a C3 license is a boom truck fixed cab also, but it's a you have to pass a certification exam, right? NCCCO, National Commission for the Certification of Crane Operators exam. So these things are extremely highly regulated in New York. And New York also did the thing where there were, for a lot of things, where inspectors are going out and looking the other way, and they crack down on the inspectors and things of that nature. So what else do we have here? And they have a checklist for everybody here. Not explaining what a C2 and C1, but there are 3 classes here. Now, also, let's see here. I believe there is a New York City crane rigging license, right? So we have crane rigging certifications. You have for the Department of Buildings, they call it a special rigger license here. And you basically have to do rigging things and have different exams. Now, the unions do a really phenomenal job in licensing people, making sure they have all their groove note together, and they're out there doing their thing. The problem and those are not usually where we normally see any of the issues. It's for non-union small contractors that don't have the capacity in their company to get people licensed or anything else. All I have to say is, God forbid you get caught without the right paperwork, because you will have a problem. Going on with the OSHA requirements here for cranes, here are my notes. So, it's subpart CC in the 1926 standard. And subpart CC addresses ground conditions hazards of working around cranes and the qualifications of employees needed to operate the equipment safely. What are the causes of crane fatalities? It's electrocution, crane assembly or disassembly, 12%, boom or buckling or collapse, 8%. Now, thankfully, in this accident, nobody got hurt here with this. Boom or buckling collapse, crane upset or overturned, rigging failure, overloading, 4%, struck by or moving load, 4%, accidents related to a man lift, 4%, so a crane hits a man lift, working within a swing radius of the counterweight, 3%, 2 blocking, right? 2%. What is 2 blocking a crane? Hold on. Two blocking refers to a situation where the crane's lower load block, for instance, the hook assembly, comes into contact with the upper load block, i.e. Bloomington. That's what I thought. 2 blocking. Right? And it damages it. I had seen this happen one time on a job, and basically it was falling. It was a fall. Everything fell apart and came crashing down on everybody. Nobody got hit, right? I think one guy got hit with a little piece of steel off the hard hat, something minor like that. And there are ways to prevent that. There are devices that prevent it, but often they get taken off. Going on. So, what are some of the things you have to look for? If you're, the thing is, there has to be a hazard assessment. And is one of the things is the ground sufficient for weight of the hoisting equipment, any equipment? And does it work right? So you have a lot of different types of training. You have qualified or certified crane and derrick operators, and they need to know the potential dangers to report immediately. Usually your local jurisdiction are the ones that regulate that. So what are some of the hazards here? So you have hazards type. You have tip overs, stable ground issues, controlling the entity, right? And the controlling entity, remember that's in the multi-employer job site definitions here, is that someone has to go and deal with the controlling entity, controlling employer on whether the ground is safe or not. So what would you do? How do you control that? You can do you can break out the pocket penetrometer, figure that out. That's really low tech. But you need somebody qualified and competent to go out there and determine whether you're going to be able to do that. And that what happens is you put on in dunnage, usually in the form of some type of wood or steel, so you could distribute the weight evenly. They're usually a minimum, it depends on how big the crane is. Some of them are, but it's usually the standard 3 or 4 foot in diameter or 3x3 type of dunnage that gets put on there. Then you have the outriggers that go out and press it down. So when it lifts, you have a tip over hazard. So know the soil. Another thing is this. Comply with the manufacturer's procedures. All of these pieces of equipment are supposed to have owner's manuals. The big issue is if you're a safety professional out there, you have to determine whether it's a rented crane or an owned crane. Now you're going to say, well, what's the difference? What's the issue? In a rented crane, usually everything is together, right? It's in there. When it's a company-owned crane, the question is, do they have the capacity? Do they have the people on staff? Do they have anybody else there who are able to keep up with the maintenance, keep up with the paperwork, keep up with the licensing and everything else? So normally you rent out a crane and the crane operator comes with it. And it's really nice because then they go out there and you have a qualified person. Some jurisdictions that does not happen all the time. They don't like to subcontract this stuff. But with a company-owned thing and an embedded employer renting with this, you may run into some kind of issues with that. So that's something that you need to realize, you need to deal with. So the owner's manual, right? Is it in there? Is it present? Often doesn't have right. Right? No, that isn't there. So you have to provide the crew with instructions and safe work procedures. What do we do with that? That's where you're dealing with the job hazard analysis. Again, if it's not in writing, it doesn't happen. I've done the training a couple of times in the last 3 or 4 months on job hazard analysis on my projects, and people don't people don't like doing them. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of it, it's a one more step in the morning. Well, you're trying to get us. We're not trying to get anybody. We have a responsibility to do a hazard assessment, communicate those hazards, what the remedial actions are, and going out and communicating with it and do training on those. That's why you sign them every day. Original signature, if possible. This way, everybody, you can't, right, when there's an accident, no one can say, well, we didn't know, we weren't sure. Again, and that's, again, a common OSHA citation on that, lack of communicating hazards. And you also have certain training and, in some cases, some jurisdictions licensing for assembling and disassembling cranes. Who's in charge of that? You often need another crane to assemble the crane that you have. That happens also. Okay, there has to be an inspection. This is OSHA here. And every 12 months, and this is OSHA, right? There has to be a qualified person, right, out there doing inspections of this. But every shift they recommend, and I'm not sure if it's recommended or a requirement, but I would do it every shift, a competent person go through and run through basic things on that crane, preferably the operator. Okay. Some other things you need to look at. What the load capacity is. And remember, the further away you get away from the center of gravity, the less the capacity of the crane is with that. And if you have employees climbing the crane with the boom and everything, guess what? You need to go out there and you need to have the person in fall protection equipment out there. Gone are the days where you're free climbing a boom. That it still happens. I've seen it happen, not recently, but I've seen that happen. Now, the other thing is this with the with this. One of the common, a very common accident, right, with fall protection. Me and my buddy Rudolph. Then you say, well, why you mentioned the last name, Buddy Rudolph? If you're NYPD Blue, I think that was NYPD Blue fan, you know him because he was a background actor throughout the entire length of the series, one of the police officers in the back. So if you're a NYPD Blue fan, you know Buddy Rudolph, and AKA Charles Rudolph. He's also a safety professional when he's not acting. Now he's retired. Anyway, they had, we were in a 6-story building over in Swiftwater, Pennsylvania. And we heard, we were on the top floor. This is about 6:30 in the morning. We're doing the morning walkthrough with the project manager and some other folks. And we hear a thud. And automatically, right, if you ever heard a human body hit the ground or any body hit the ground, it's a distinctive sound that you will never get out of your head. It's always there, right? And me and him automatically knew. Right, the way I got my experience with it was with squirrels falling off and getting electrocuted and falling off the telephone wires and power lines in front of my house growing up. Same sound. So we went out and we automatically knew what it was. And we run to the side of the building and guy fell off a crane. What he was doing was the morning inspection, and he was walking on top of the crane, which was around 8 foot in the air. There was nowhere for fall protection, but because the crane manufacturer knew that people walk on top of the cab of the crane, they put non-skid. It was put in by the manufacturer, non-skid surface on there with like the tape, right? Except it was a little bit heavy duty or the grit tape, that sort of thing. And the guy fell face down into a puddle of water. Now, the guy was all fouled up and everything physically, neck issues, back issues, but that's not what almost killed him. What almost killed him was he almost drowned. He was unconscious face down in a puddle of water. So we ended up, again, back injury. Do you move the guy or not? I don't know. Well, a decision was made by someone, I don't know who, to get because I was walking down the stairs, to get the guy. And I think, actually, memory serves right, the guy got up under his own power, but they helped him up, that sort of thing. Again, first aid CPR training, you got to make a decision there with that. And the guy was all fouled up. So this often happens during the inspection of the crane in the morning. And this was the kind of guy that he was very diligent. I don't know if he was an owner-operator or what. He looked over his equipment every day and had a checklist. I never had a problem with the guy with checklists and inspecting his crane. He treated it like his own, but this is often what happens, which brings you to the next point. Don't work alone. If we had not been there, the guy would have likely been a fatality, or it would have been a bad thing. The next thing is this: risk of electrocution. This is often another crane hazard, where you have people up there and they touch the crane boom touches wires overhead. And remember, it could be below, too, if you're involved in some type of excavation, driving, piling, things of that nature. Mid-90s, Newark Airport got wiped out for an afternoon. Because actually, well, I think it was 2 or 3 days, where a crane pile driver went through the regular power line and the backup power line for Newark Airport. Was not a pretty thing. The company I worked for at the time was involved in the investigation there, and my boss told us all about it. And he had some some interesting comments, Jeff Olcott. We'll leave it. If you knew Jeff Olcott, right? He passed away. Rest in peace, Jeff. If you knew Jeff Olcott, you would know what kind of comments you would have kind of have. So he would have been a good guest on here, man. All I have to say. He would have been a good host on here, right? Co-host. So keep away from power lines. Again, make sure they're de-energized or guarded. And there are certain standards with that. You can go and look that up. The rule of thumb is at least 20 foot away and know the voltage. What else we got here? I'm looking at this. I'm reading off of a PowerPoint presentation here, not mine. Otherwise, I would have it up here. And some of these pictures, the guy who wrote this must have been from New Jersey, because I'm seeing like 3 New Jersey photos here. But unless you're from New Jersey, you would not, know this, right? Like we got the old Goethals Bridge here, not the new one, the old one. Funny story. I was watching a documentary on the oil industry, and lo and behold, what do I see? Goethals Bridge, and the video was from the waterfront at the Bayway Refinery, on top of one of the towers on the waterfront. And what I laugh is that Bayway Refinery, and it was an older video. Bayway Refinery is very, don't get caught with a camera there. We'll leave it at that. Don't. It would be a bad thing working there. So with OSHA, you have 4 different things, right? 3 different things here. You have to be certified. You have to be a certified operator. Now remember, certified is not licensed. You have to check what your local jurisdiction is on what your license, what your local license is. So, for example, in Massachusetts, once you get above a certain weight of, let's say, a lull, which is a Class 7 forklift, all-terrain forklift. With that, once you start putting attachments like your jib attachment, hook on it, or anything like that, now you need a license for that. You need a hoist license, I believe is what it's called. Don't quote me on that. Check what the local... It's been a long time since I worked in Massachusetts and Connecticut. So you have different licenses for that. You may unknowingly come under a state's definition of a crane operator or something similar to that if you're dealing with different things. New York City has its own licensing program. I believe other major cities have that, like Philadelphia, Chicago, Las Vegas, where Jay Allen was last week. And with that, so where are you going? Where can you get certified? An accredited crane operator testing organization audited by an audited employer program, meaning that you have to get the credentials there to do the training, which very, very expensive. State or local government may have something, trade schools, things along that way, and the military. Now, you also have to have a signal person qualification. So for that, it has to be a third-party evaluator. It cannot come from a former employer. So you cannot go from company A and go to company B and say I'm a signal person not qualified, right? It has to be managed by the employer that you are currently working with, is my understanding. It has to be by a third party, company, entity, what have you. You have to carry all of these qualifications have to be on you, and you have to specify the type of qualification. Is it going to be for hand signals, radio signals, flags? What is it? Again, you need to have everything on there, all documented all the time. Why is that? Because when the Guvno, I can guarantee you, when the Guvno hits the fan like it did in New York City, guess what? Everybody's there. What do you think they're going to ask for? I know they already had asked for it. Why? Because they always asked for it. Where's the paperwork on the crane? Where is the checklist? Where's the license? Where's everything else? And with that, first things that they do. Again, if you want to go, and we have an accident management class here where we talk about accident investigations and managing accidents, things of that nature, give us a call, 845-269-5772. Now, you also have to have, so you have the operator, signal person. You also have to have a qualified rigger, right? R-I-G-G-E-R. And that's somebody who is qualified to do that. And to be considered a qualified rigger, you must meet the criteria for a qualified person. Remember, there's a difference between competent person and qualified person. Qualified person, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be able to choose the rigging, rig it right knots, and everything else. So a qualified rigger has to have on-the-job experience and education. So you have to possess a recognized degree, certificate, or professional standing, or have extensive knowledge, training, and experience, and can successfully demonstrate the ability to solve problems related to rigging loads. A person designated as a qualified rigger, again, and you do this in writing, just like with a competent person, it's got to be somewhere in writing. Especially if you're in a state like New York State. You had better make damn sure competent person and qualified people are designated. The person designated as qualified rigger must have the ability to properly rig the load for a particular job. It does not mean that a rigger is qualified to do every type of rigging job. Again, there are companies out there that I've worked with where this is all that they do is rigging. So, go out and get a rigger. We're going to go and take a brief commercial timeout here, and, we'll go from there.
You are listening to Safety Wars. Tomorrow's Safety Today.
And hold on. This is Safety Wars, broadcasting to our brothers and sisters in the occupied territory of behavior-based safety. Get out your secret decoder ring. Here is your nightly message.
Learning is vital. Learning is vital.
I don't know. I have a different approach. I mean, I listen to these other podcasts and programs, and they are very serious. They are very corporate. This is what we're doing. And everything. And that ain't me. You're seeing the pure, unadulterated Jim Posel here on this show. And that's the way it's going to be. Well, it's like this. And no, I had a lot of very well-meaning, well-intentioned folks that I've worked with. Some would consider them mentors. They could be supervisors, bosses, and everything else. Well, Jim, you got to do this. Jim, you got to do this. And I wasn't very happy with the way I was doing the way things were going. I said, you know what? Rather than fight this and fight that, make myself into something I'm not, I said, I'm going to embrace who I am. And that's what we are here on Safety Wars. We keep it light. We try to make people feel happy. We go into rants sometimes, I know, but you got to be comfortable in your own skin. And once you're comfortable in your own skin, you lose a lot of the stress in your own life. People would say, well, you got to find yourself. I wasn't finding myself. I knew who I was. It's just that I had to learn to embrace who I was. And like I heard in one meme today, no one's going to tell me what my opinion needs to be or who I should like and who I should get along with. I get along with all different kinds of people. Just the way it is. And what I ended up doing, Jay Allen had a very detailed commentary on his podcast on the Jay Allen Show here, was HOP, Human Organizational Performance, is 30 years old, roughly. So it's 30 years old, HOP. He estimates about 15% of companies and practitioners in the safety field have embraced HOP. I don't know how accurate that is. I call him the safety mystic, right? Him and Todd Conklin are safety mystics. They got their hands and on otherworldly knowledge, it seems like. That's correct, by the way. So I'll take his word for 15%. But I've been doing HOP for an awful long time because I realized that there was something wrong out there with the way we were managing safety. You don't need all this antagonism. You need leadership. You need to get along with people. That's how you guarantee you get more work and you remain employed. If you can get along with people, act professionally. I'm not saying don't do your job. This is often how safety people say, well, get along with people and workers. Getting along with the workers by letting a worker do whatever the hell they want to do, regardless of what the consequences are, breaking all the rules, not having any procedures or anything like that. And there's a huge misunderstanding of what HOP is, Human Organizational Performance. It's not having procedures. It's having, what is it? It's having guards. It's having controls. It's having resilience. It's having capacity. It's having all that stuff in place. And the more controls and procedures and everything else you have in place, and it's also, I go through all of these, right, with my secret messages here. Every night there's there's 5, so there are 5 nights a week, so you're able to figure it out. What that is, the principles is you got to rely on the worker. You work with the worker. You don't work against the worker. And I've been trying to do that for many years here, and my younger part of my career, we weren't able to do that. If you're under 30 in this industry, you're not going to get listened to, real simple. However, once you start to get educated, you start to get motivated, you get to start to know people and everything else, and you start developing your own style on how to manage people, and you get into workplaces that are not toxic. Guess what? Now you're able to manage people easier, and it's easier to implement HOP. Behavior-based safety, it's treating people as machines often. And I get it. Scott Geller and everything, great guy. I've never met him, but I've read his books. This is not what his intention was. I think the VBS godfathers here, the leaders, the originators, wasn't their intention to have this antagonistic and adversarial system. However, it's prone to that type of thing. Adversarial, abusive, human resources, my opinion is human resources and attorneys got a hold of it. And they said, well, if you are not, if you got hurt, it's your own damn fault. Well, guess what? The incentive is most employees do not come to work to get hurt. You listen to the show long enough, I'll tell you a story of someone who came to work to get hurt, to get workers' comp and disability, right? Believe me, I know somebody who threw themselves down a flight of stairs because he got denied disability. So he threw himself down a flight of stairs so he could break his leg so he would have long-term disability. I know that happened, all right? I know somebody who did that. But I digress. There are incentives in place for workers to work the way they do. And guess what? That incentive is not going to be listen to the safety person, because the safety person does not have the authority to hire, fire, discipline people, manage people, or like with money or scheduling or anything like that. It's a different type of management. So just some food for thought here. And let's continue here.
In the professional safety community, communication and planning are just a few keys to your program's success. The question many practitioners have is, where do I start? Dr. Jay Allen, the creator of the Safety FM platform and host of the Rated R Safety Show, has built a global foundation to help you along the way. Go to safetyfm.com and listen to some of the industry's best and most involved professionals, including Blaine Hoffman with the Safety Pro, Sam Goodman with the Hop Nerd, Sheldon Primus with the Safety Consultant, Jim Pozell with Safety Wars, Emily Elrod with Unapologetically Bold, and many others. As individuals, we can do great things, but as a team, we become amazing. Dial into safetyfm.com today and surround yourself with a powerful force of knowledge and support.
Have you listened or watched the Safety War Show? It does stream live on the radio and on the streamer-emers that we have. So if you have not taken a listen to Jim Posel and what the hell he's doing every evening with Safety Wars, I would strongly encourage you to take a view or take a listen, whichever option is available for you, and take a listen to what the hell he has going on. It will take some deep dives and some information that you might be interested in.
Okay, so let's go on the UAP stuff. Then we're going to get into the other situations we have going on here. So it's been in the news literally for, I've been hearing about this for at least 6 months on Coast to Coast AM, who are friends of this program. And I was on Coast to Coast AM earlier this year, and I discussed some of my own UFO experiences. And you're going to say, well, why, Jim, why is this so important to you? Why should I give a Guvno over this? Why should I care? Blah, 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 blah. I have a feeling, right? There's been a lot of, basically my adult lifetime, a lot of distrust of the government. Whole host of reasons. Some of them legitimate, some not so legitimate. My political awakening was in high school. However, starting in 1992, when I became a quote-unquote adult, I graduated college in 92, the trust in government has gotten worse and worse. And with the advent of the internet, and there was, I believe it was one major thing, well, two major things. You had in 79, C-SPAN came out, where you could actually see federal, and sometimes state, but mostly federal proceedings in the House of Representatives and Senate televised. And people got a little bit into, hey, hey, this is what's going on. And with the advent of the video recorder, Congress people used to go. One of them was Newt Gingrich. He was a young congressman in 78. C-SPAN came out, and he ended up going and recording, have what were called special order speeches. And what he did was he recorded these special order speeches on VHS tape, had someone do it off at C-SPAN, and he would use them in his campaigns. And he would use it for what we're going to do tomorrow, starting to educate the voters on exactly what was going on. Democrats did the same thing, but Gingrich was more open about it, it seems, on the Republican side. So what would happen is he'd be in there after hours giving a special orders speech, and he'd just be in there, would be an empty room, and he's just out there, and there's a parliamentarian there and a couple of other officials that are needed to run Congress, and they'd just be listening to this. What happened was that when he became Speaker of the House in 1995, actually, they came out with what was called Thomas.gov. I believe that's what the website was. After Thomas Jefferson, they named it, who was the first president of the Senate. Vice president, right? Also, vice president of the United States, also president of the Senate. And what he did was, what that law was they put everything on the internet. So basically from about 96 on, by the time they got the whole system kicked in, you have what we have here, reading off OSHA press releases, reading off all different types of things. And researchers went out there. They also had the Freedom of Information Act. And people would go out there and do all this stuff, do research and everything else. And trust in government got less and less. What the government did here with the UFO issue, and I've been following it since I'm about 8 years old, was they called them UFO, unidentified flying objects. The government pulled a fast one and started to call them unidentified anomalous phenomenon, UAP, or unidentified aerial phenomenon, often called also. I don't know how that is. And people would do Freedom of Information Act requests on, hey, I'm interested in UFO documents, blah, 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 blah. And eventually, a whistleblower, I believe the one we're going to talk about here, came into David Grush, found out, well, hey, you're asking for the wrong stuff, guys. You should be asking for UAPs, because they call them UAPs now. And then it turns out that, holy crap, all this stuff came out because the Navy was in charge of investigating the UAPs, right? Navy aviation, right? The aviators, whatever you call them. And this is essentially what it came down to, was all this information came out. So a former, and this is from CBSNews.com, a former military intelligence officer turned whistleblower told House lawmakers. Now, why is this important? Now, I didn't finish the thought. The reason why this is important is this. They're going to, I believe this gentleman, Dave Grush, they're going to release all this information that there's been a cover-up since at least 1947 on this. Some sources say significantly longer. And now they've been lying to the American public for how many years about this stuff? Really? And it's discernible, it's tangible, it's identifiable, and everything else? I don't think there's going to be very good, this is not going to be good. This is going to be bad eventually. And remember, this is not kooks doing this. Over the years, who have we had? Hillary Clinton talking about this stuff. You've had Newt Gingrich, I believe, talking about this. You had Harry Reid, a Democrat. Hillary Clinton, a Democrat, talking about this. You had former President Barack Hussein Obama talking about this stuff. You had former President Jimmy Carter talking about this stuff. You had Ronald Reagan, who alluded to this in a United Nations speech talking about this stuff. What if we were going to be attacked from somewhere, some extraterrestrial thing? Wouldn't we all be united? Was his famous quote on this. All of this stuff going on and on and on. Now, and there's an argument here that disclosure has been happening all along here in little bits. This is a major thing that they may have been covering up this stuff since at least 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico. So, again, what's the thing? What if it does come out that we have life on other planets? I tell you what, I'm okay with it. All right? I'm okay with it. I mean, there's going to be obvious religious and social and everything consequences, but I'm okay with it. With this. I mean, the Christian, I am okay with it. And everything else. Well, my problem is why are they covering this up? A former military intelligence officer turned whistleblower told House lawmakers that Congress is being kept in the dark about UAPs, alleging in a hearing that executive branch agencies have withheld information about mysterious objects for years. David Grush, who served 14 years as an intelligence officer in the Air Force and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which I never heard of, appeared before the House Oversight Committee, National Security Subcommittee, along with two former fighter pilots who had first-hand experience. Grush served as a representative to two Pentagon task forces investigating UAPs until earlier this year. He told lawmakers that he was informed of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program during the course of his work examining classified programs. He said he was denied access to those programs when he requested it and accused the military of misappropriating funds to shield these operations from congressional oversight. He later said he had interviewed officials who had direct knowledge of aircraft with non-human origins and that so-called biologics were recovered from some craft. Members of both parties questioned how Congress should go about investigating the remarkable allegations, a reflection of the increasing willingness by lawmakers to demand the executive branch be more forthcoming about the phenomenon. We're going to uncover the cover-up, and I hope this is just the beginning of many more hearings and many more people coming forward about this, said Representative Tim Burchett, a Republican from Tennessee. Pentagon did not immediately respond for this, and the UAP has gained widespread attention from Congress and the public in recent years, with the release of several video recordings of the encounters, which typically show seemingly nondescript objects moving through the air at very high speeds with no apparent method of propulsion. The Pentagon's All-Anomaly Resolution Office, which Congress established last year to investigate the incidents, has investigated nearly 800 reports of UAP as of May 2023. While military officials have said most cases have innocuous origins, many others remain unexplained. Now, Barack Obama said a couple of years back, we don't know what these things are. They put them on a late-night talk show. But they're not a threat. Okay, well, how do you get to that from one to the other? So that's what we'll leave it at that. It's important because I think people are gonna be pissed if they find out about a huge cover-up over years and that they're withholding. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Okay, onward to OSHA. Texas, this is from OSHA Newsfeed, Department of Labor. Texas glass manufacturer earns a STAR designation for excellence in workplace safety, health management at a Waxahachie facility. And where is that? It's a Cardinal IG Waxahachie. There you go. A glass manufacturer and provider into the, this is in Texas, into the agency's VPP with a STAR designation. The action follows an OSHA audit at the company's facility. The agency awards VPP status. Okay, congratulations to them. Good for them. We have another one of these also. We covered that one last week. And federal investigators, Federal investigators responding to a report of an employee's severe burns find multiple safety hazards at a Green Bay Sanimex facility. $300,000 in penalties at this Wisconsin facility. I think we covered this last year, but we'll cover it again. 3 repeat and 10 serious health violations. Let's see what they are. Let's go back, right? Inspectors from OSHA determined the company failed to develop and implement hazardous energy control procedures. It's 1910-147. And they found fall hazards, explosion hazards, and other dangerous electrical hazards, unguarded pulleys, shafts, belts, and production equipment, unguarded and unlabeled hot steam process pipes. And this was happened after an employee suffered severe burns. Let's see what we got here. Citation 1, type of violation serious, general duty clause violation. The employer did not ensure employees are protected from severe burn hazards due to potential contact with non-insulated and unguarded equipment. Fine, $14,733. Citation 1, item 2A. Serious. Uniform hyzer rates and tread depths between landings. So the stairs are fouled up. What was the fine? $9,822 for stair treads. Other stair issues. The employer must ensure the stairway landings and platforms are at least the width of the stair and at least 30 inches in depth as measured in the direction of travel. De minimis violation, but it's 0. It's serious, but it's 0. They got him on. Citation 1, item 3. Unprotected sides and edges, right? General industry, 4 foot. You need a guardrail, safety net system, personal fall arrest system. $12,278. And 1910-147, item 1, item 4A. Another $15,000. The employer shall develop, document, and utilize procedures for the control of potentially hazardous energy. Citation 1, item 4B. They have to have a written plan. They didn't find them on that. Citation 1, item 5A, no guarding. Ooh. $15,625. Citation 1, item 5B, serious. Guarding again. No fine on that. And here we go. We're going to skip a couple of these. Skip ahead. Guarding. And cutout boxes on electric panels. The cutouts on there. The punch outs on there. And here we go. This is the big one. Citation 2, item 1, a repeat violation. Blocked. The walking working surfaces are to be kept in a clean, orderly, and sanitary condition. $36,000 fine. Almost $37,000. Citation 2, item 2. For repeat violations, serious. The employer must ensure guardrail systems that are capable of withstanding without failure at least 200 pounds applied in a downward or outward direction within 2 inches of the top edge at any point on the edge. $61,000 fine. Citation 2, item 3, repeat violation. Guarding, right? Guarding on things that are less than 7 foot above the walking working surface. $61,000 for a grand total $249,000. Okay, I gotta be very careful not to mention this name of this company. Department of Labor site, because we'll take down a whole industry here. Department of Labor cites Boston dumpling manufacturer that continues to endanger employees, expose them to new and recurring hazards. This is a food manufacturer. All right. So, the department's OSHA, here you go. They did a follow-up after a serious injury in 2022. They found that the company had not installed the required safety guards on a dumping machine's rotating shafts, a dangerous hazard for which the company was cited for after an employee suffered serious injuries in 2022. So proposed penalty, $82,000. Let's see if they have everything here. All right. Citation 1, item 1, type of violation, failure to abate, serious. Revolving surfaces of shaft couplings were not covered by a safety sleeve in the dumping room. $82,500 fine. That's a failure to abate penalty. And here you go. Here. And here's another thing here. So on the follow-up, $82,000 fine. Citation 1, item 1, type of violation, serious. No lockout tagout is $6,875. Citation 2, item 1, type of violation, willful. Gears were not guarded by complete enclosure or by one of the methods specified in the regulations, $68,000 fine. Citation 3, item 1, type of violation, repeat serious. One or more methods of machine guarding was not provided to protect the operator and other employees in the machine operating area from hazards such as those created from a point of operation, ingoing nip points, rotating parts, flying chips, and sparks. $13,750. And citation 3, item 2, type of violation, repeat serious. Guarding of electric equipment, 1910-303 violation, $7,800 citation on that for a grand total of $97,000. And here we have another one. Oh. Citation 1, item 1. Employer did not have a hearing conservation program, $3,900. Citation 1, item 2. Eye washes, not immediately available, $30,929. Citation 1, item 3. A written HAZCOM program, $2,946. So, I mean, we're talking a lot of money this company got here on this, and these are all relatively easy things to resolve. A hell of a lot easier than the proposed penalties. Okay, I'm going to take a break for a second here and go for it.
Safety Wars is streaming now.
SafetyFM.com.
Is your safety training old, stale, and hackneyed? Is your safety trainer still preaching a warped version of behavior-based safety? How about safety training that actually addresses your hazards in your workplaces and is not standardized baloney from 25 years ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call Jim Posel at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you're receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces. You are the solution to unsafe workplaces. OSHA recordables, catastrophic losses, environmental disasters. You want answers? So do I. This is Jim Posel with Safety Wars.
That's my daddy!
Okay, U.S. Department of Labor cites North Andover Petco store for failing to protect workers from rodents, electrical, and chemical hazards. Right? A pet supply store in North Andover, operated by a subsidiary of one of the nation's largest pet care companies, routinely exposed employees to live or dead rodents. My question is this: were they animals that got out, that they were selling? Because this company sells animals, so that's my question here. The U.S. Department of Labor's OSHA opened an inspection at the animal supply store in February 2023, in response to an employee complaint. Inspectors determined the facility lacked an effective and adequate vermin control program to stop rodents from entering the store and sheltering areas such as receiving room or on the sales floor. I don't know, maybe should they be like trapping these animals in a live trap and then selling them? I don't know. With that, they could use them as feeder animals for some of the snakes, I'm sure. So what did they whack them with? Oh, you're going to love this. $129,473 in penalties. What we have to point out here is that there were other citations for this employer in other areas. One of them being in Texas, and one in Ohio. So, again, these are repeat violations. Let's see what they are. Scrolling on down. Type of citation. Item 1, Citation 1, Item 1. 1910-151, where employees are exposed to injurious corrosive materials, suitable facilities for quick drenching or flushing of the eyes and bodies are not provided within the work area for immediate emergency room. Emergency use, I'm sorry. Okay, $8,900. Citation 1, Item 2. Type of violation, serious. 1910-1200. This is one we don't see here too often, at least in this section of the website. This was improperly labeled hazardous chemicals in the workplace, in the janitorial closet, almost $9,000. 1910-141, enclosed workplaces were not so constructed, equipped, and maintained as to prevent the entrance or harborage of rodents, insects, and other vermin. $66,970. This was a repeat violation. Type of violation, repeat serious, and this is a common one. A 3-foot minimum clearance was not maintained for headroom of working spaces about service equipment. $44,645 for a grand total of $129,000. Now, here we have here. We're going to link these two stories here. Federal work, and this is not from OSHA, it's from the DOL, Department of Labor. A federal investigation has found that despite more than $21 million in penalties since 2017, and those are proposed penalties, by the way, since 2017 for workplace safety failures, Dollar General continued to expose employees at an Austin store on East Runberg Lane to the risks of locked exits and fire extinguishers, not maintained or mounted as required. Again, just shy of $300,000. Now, linking it to the first story we just talked about, a chain pet outlet for pet stores. How much you want to make a bet that they're going to start going to more of those stores? I'm willing to bet on that. I'll bet you $5, because now they know what the system, what it is: vermin, guarding, eye washes, labels, things of that nature. So now they got their thing, and they've already been. This is the third facility they've been to. And this other employer has several thousand outlets also. So guess what? I have a feeling they're going to go in there and start doing it again and again and again. So be on the lookout if you're in a pet store. My opinion is that eventually they're going to go after all these retailers. Because there's a story today that Amazon, the government is looking at, that FTC, Federal Trade Commission, is looking at breaking up Amazon because they're too big. Well, my question is are they looking to break up these other companies through OSHA violations with this? I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy. But there's maybe a conspiracy here. That's all I got for you tonight. I had some other news stories here that we can go hang out for tomorrow here with this thing. Some good, some bad. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow for Safety Wars. This is Jim Polzel, and we will see you.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.